Hey there, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for stopping by. My name is Motobo, and today we will be continuing the series in which I explain the process behind designing the Fakemon for my own hypothetical Pokemon region, the Mista Region. In the last episode, we met the fire starter of the Mista Region, Chison, the flammable Pokemon. In this episode, we will be discovering the final starter in the Mista Region, the water starter. Because the Mista Region is based on New England or the northeastern US, I wanted to base this Pokemon on an animal that is iconic to the area. A well-known animal that is local to this part of the world happens to be one of my favorite animals that I've wanted to make a Fakemon based on for a long time. That animal is no other than the American beaver. I chose beavers because they are very cool and cute animals with incredibly unique behaviors. The Canadian beaver is the national animal of Canada, which borders the real-life inspiration for the Mista Region's geography, and the American beaver is the state animal of New York, which is near New England. Besides that, there are many beavers found all over New England, and their iconic beaver dams are well known in the area. Although it won't make much of a difference, I will be using the American beaver as the main inspiration for this design. While I do think Bidoof and Bibarel are great Pokemon, I feel like they've never truly done justice to how awesome a beaver Pokemon can be. There are a few key points I had in mind as I pursued this design to both make this design look good and round out the aesthetic it shares with the other two starters. I made Igby very happy and smiling while Chison gave off more of a timid feeling, so for this mon I wanted it to look kind of oblivious, like it wasn't really sure of what was going on. I also wanted to go all in on the Generation 8 starter design theme, which means big round head and a tiny oval or triangle shaped body. I also like the idea of having a design that connected the body with the head of the Pokemon, kind of like how we see in Rowlet's design, as I think beavers have a naturally cute and kind of squat build. I played around with this in mind during the early design process. I knew I was probably going to end up with the more modern design, but I just didn't want to limit the possibilities of what could be a great Fakemon design. I also wanted it to have small, dark, and beady eyes with no discernible whites, as this is a common feature among starter Pokemon, and I wanted at least one of the Pokemon in my starter line with this aspect. I chose Oshawott as the main reference for this design due to the similarities between the real-life counterparts of these Pokemon, beavers and otters, but was surprised to find out that while beavers are classified as rodents, otters are not. Beavers are actually the second largest known rodent species behind capybaras, rodents being characterized by a single pair of continuously growing incisors from the top and bottom of their mouths, kind of like Raticate. This is a prominent feature of beaver anatomy, and another feature I wanted to add to this mon. I originally had the idea to give this Pokemon extremely pronounced sharp teeth that would give it the power to bite through anything, but this ended up looking a bit too silly for what I had in mind. I also wanted to make sure not to just redesign Oshawott, but to have this mon stand out as its own unique species. Funnily enough, I actually found this design to be reminiscent of Scorbunny's multiple times during its development, which is something else I took into consideration to make sure this Fakemon came off as original. I also wanted to find a nice balance of visual noise in this design, being a bit more complex than my other starters, so that this mon would be able to stand out on its own and to make sure that it's not restricted by my style. I decided to integrate this variability when I eventually played around with the color scheme and patterning on the body. I also wanted to make this design overall very active in a dynamic sense, like a candid snapshot of this mon on the go. One final note that I wanted to integrate into this design was to have it facing the right as opposed to the left like the other starters. I think this adds just a bit of overall balance to the starters' designs as a whole. I thought it would be cool to add a lot of the visual noise of this Fakemon to its head in the form of little pieces of eye candy like whiskers and ears. This ended up looking like a little bit too much, and I decided on leaving the top of its head bare and smooth, as this is a feature seen in many other water starters and would make sense for this Pokemon's hydrodynamic needs. During this stage of the process, I felt like the color pattern on the face was not enough for what I had in mind, so I played around with a few different options. I liked the idea of a bold white stripe around the head that encircled and covered the face, which would make the head look a bit like a beach ball, but I held myself back because when I applied the bold white to the bottom of the head around the mouth and under the eyes, it made this Pokemon look more like a squirrel than a beaver. I eventually settled on a pattern that was a bit more realistic to a beaver's head shape, only covering the mouth in a downward fashion, but you will see in the final design that I did end up adding a little bit more to the face. This design process was a bit of a struggle for me. Typically my favorite starter Pokemon are the water Pokemon, and I wanted this to be really good, but throughout the process it looked kind of awkward and incomplete. When I got to the end and I applied all of the details, I ended up being very happy with the design overall, and I'm excited for what will become of the future evolutions when I eventually put them out. With that being said, it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you the water starter of the Mista region, Wacket, the Wagtail Pokemon. Wacket live in colonies with other Wacket and are known to stay in the same place their entire life. It has razor-sharp teeth that it uses to chop down and chew the hard wood it loves to eat. It uses its powerful tail to propel itself through the water. This Fakemon has the abilities Torrent and Mold Breaker. As you can see, I ended up integrating the beach ball design on the face that I mentioned earlier. I also added a few lines to differentiate the patterns on its face and body with a slightly lighter color than used for the line work. The name for this Fakemon is based off the phrase whack it because it likes to use its tail to whack things, and kit because that's what baby beavers are called. So, now that you've seen all the starters for the Mista region, which one would you choose for your team? I hope you enjoyed meeting the first Pokemon in my Fakemon region, and I hope you will continue with me on this journey to discover the full regional dex of the Mista region. I also encourage you to comment down below what other Fakemon you would like to see inhabit this hypothetical Pokemon region based on my home of New England. In the next episode, we will take a look at both of the evolutions for Igmi, the grass starter of the Mista region. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. I hope to have a new video out each week if not sooner, so check back or click the bell button to keep up with the Mista region dex. Until then, thanks so much for joining me and have a great rest of your day.